Admiral Park Ji-woo stood alone on the bridge of his ship. The Indomitable was the last command vessel of the human fleet. Around him, officers worked in silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. The screens told the whole story. 32 ships. That was all that remained. 400 vessels had answered Earth's call when the war began. Now, 17 months later, only 32 still flew. And outside, waiting in the darkness of space, the enemy numbered in thousands. The Velari had come without warning. Their ships were beautiful in a terrible way. They were made of something like crystal, and light bent around them like water around stones. When they fired their weapons, whole cities vanished. When they landed their soldiers, armies fell in hours. Ji-woo had served in the fleet for 40 years. He had seen battles. He had known loss. But nothing had prepared him for this. Nothing could prepare anyone for the death of a world. Lieutenant Kim Soo-ben walked to his side. She was young, barely 30, but the war had aged her. Her eyes carried a weight that no young person should know. In her hands, she held a datapad with the latest numbers. "Sir," she said quietly, "the count is complete." Wu did not want to hear it. But he was the admiral. Hearing terrible things was his duty. "Tell me." 17 billion dead. Earth is occupied. Mars is gone. The belt colonies have been destroyed. Her voice cracked slightly. We are all that is left. 17 billion. The number was too large to understand. Ji-woo tried to picture it, but his mind refused. How could anyone imagine 17 billion souls? 17 billion stories ended. 17 billion futures erased. The Velari were not alone in this war. They led a coalition called the Dominion. The Keth, the Droma, the Orvani, and a dozen other species followed their command. Together, they had conquered 600 worlds. 600 species had fallen before them. Humanity was simply the latest name on a very long list. Sergeant Cho Nari sat at the communication station. She was a small woman with steady hands and a sharp mind. Throughout the war, she had kept the fleet connected, even when everything else fell apart. Now, she was receiving the message that everyone had expected. "Admiral," she said, "the Velari High Commander is broadcasting. Put it through." The screen flickered. A face appeared, though calling it a face felt wrong. The Velari did not look like humans. Their features were sharp and angular, their skin like polished stone. High Commander Thren stared at Ji-woo with eyes that held no warmth, no mercy, no recognition of shared existence. "Admiral of the humans," Thren said, "your resistance has been noted and found meaningless. Your species has been judged and found lacking. You have one cycle to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will find your remaining ships. We will find your hidden stations. We will find every human who still breathes, and we will end them. There will be no memory of your kind. Choose." The transmission ended. Ji-woo stood very still. Around him, his crew waited. Some were crying silently, others stared at nothing, lost in their own grief. A few looked at him with desperate hope, as if he might somehow produce a miracle. He had no miracles. He had 32 ships against thousands. He had exhausted crews and empty ammunition stores. He had courage, but courage did not win wars. Not against an enemy like this. "Prepare the surrender broadcast," he said. The words tasted like ash. Subin nodded. Nari began to configure the communications array. Officers moved slowly, as if walking through deep water. This was the end. Everyone knew it. Humanity would surrender, and whatever came after would not be life. It would be existence at the pleasure of their conquerors. But then Nari stopped. Her hands froze over her console. She leaned forward, frowning at her screen. "Admiral, I am receiving something else from the Velari." "No, sir. From our side. It is encrypted. Military codes, but old ones. Very old." She worked quickly, her fingers dancing. "It is coming from the asteroid belt. A hidden research station. I did not know we had anything left there. Neither did Ji-woo. The belt had been declared lost months ago. Can you decode it? Working on it now. Nara's frown deepened. Then her eyes widened. I have it. The sender identifies herself as Dr. Yoon Hannah, Xenarchaeology Division. Yes, Xenarchaeology. The study of alien ruins and ancient civilizations. Gi-woo knew the division existed, but he had never thought much about it. In wartime, people who studied old rocks seemed less important than people who fired weapons. What does she say? Nari read the message slowly, as if she could not believe the words. 3 words, sir? Just 3 words. She looked up at him. Don't surrender yet? The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at Nari, then at Ji-woo. Don't surrender yet. What could that possibly mean? What could one scientist on a hidden station know that would change anything? Ji-woo should have ignored it. The logical choice was clear. Surrender and hope for mercy. That was the only path that made sense. But something stirred in his chest. Something that had been dying slowly over 17 months of defeat. It was small and weak, but it was there. Hope he looked at Subin. Cancel the surrender broadcast, sir. You heard me? Cancel it. He straightened his uniform. Prepare my shuttle. I am going to the asteroid belt. Admiral, if the Volari find out that we delayed our response, they will attack immediately. Then we'd better be quick. Gi-woo walked toward the door, then paused. He looked back at his crew. These men and women had followed him through hell. They deserved an explanation. I do not know what Dr. Yoon has found, he said. I do not know if it matters. But 17 billion of our people are dead, and I will not surrender until I have explored every option. Every single one. If there is even the smallest chance that something out there can save us, I will find it. He left the bridge and walked toward the shuttle bay. Behind him, his crew began to move again. The surrender broadcast remained unsent. Somewhere in the asteroid belt, a scientist was waiting with a secret, and humanity's fate hung on 3 simple words. The shuttle flew through the darkness for 6 hours. Admiral Park Ji-woo sat in silence, watching the stars pass by his window. Each one was a sun. Each sun might have planets. Each planet might have life. And somewhere out there, the Volari were waiting to end everything he had ever known. The asteroid appeared on his sensors. It was small, unremarkable, the kind of rock that nobody would notice. That was the point. The research station was hidden deep inside, carved into the stone itself. When Ji-woo stepped out of his shuttle, a woman was waiting for him. Dr. Yoon Hannah was not what he expected. She was older than him, with gray hair pulled back tight and eyes that seemed to look through things rather than at them. She wore a simple research coat covered in dust. Behind her stood a young man with nervous hands and a datapad clutched to his chest. Admiral Hannah said, "Thank you for coming. Your message was not easy to ignore. What have you found?" Hannah did not answer immediately. Instead, she turned and began walking deeper into the station. Ji-woo followed, and the young man fell into step beside him. Im-beek Min-ho, the young man said. Dr. Yoon's assistant. I study languages. Languages. Ancient ones. Dead ones. The ones that nobody speaks anymore. They walked through narrow corridors carved from rock. Equipment lined the walls. Screens showed strange symbols and diagrams that Ji-woo did not understand. This was a place of scholarship, of research, of patient work done over many years. It felt very far from the war. Finally, they reached a large chamber. And there, in the center, Gi-woo saw something that made him stop. It was a shrine. There was no other word for it. The structure was ancient, made of black metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered every surface. Around it, warning signs had been carved into the rock, written in dozens of different scripts. What is this? Ji-woo asked. Hannah walked to the shrine and placed her hand on its surface. This is what I have been studying for 30 years. I found it buried in this asteroid when I was a young researcher. It took me 2 decades just to understand what I was looking at. And what are you looking at? A beacon. A summoning device. It has been inactive for over 50,000 years. She looked at Ji-woo. Do you know what the galaxy was like 50,000 years ago, Admiral? No, neither did I, neither did anyone. The Dominion teaches that they have always been the dominant power, that species like the Valari have ruled since the beginning of recorded history. But that is a lie. She gestured at the warnings carved around the shrine. These warnings are written in every known galactic language. Valari Keth, even languages belonging to species that went extinct 10,000 years ago. They all say the same thing. Minho stepped forward, reading from his datapad. Never wake them. Never call them. Never speak their name. Jiwoo felt a chill run down his spine. Who are they talking about? Hannah took a deep breath. Before the Dominion, there was another power. A species so feared that every civilization in the galaxy, including the ancestors of our enemies, formed an alliance to defeat them. They did not win through superior numbers or better weapons. They won because this species was simply too powerful to resist. What happened to them? They could not be killed. So they were contained. Sealed away in a prison outside normal space, a dimension between dimensions. The galaxy buried all knowledge of them, hoping they would be forgotten. Hannah touched the beacon again. This device can wake them. Jiwoo stared at the shrine. Why are you telling me this? Even if this story is true, why would we release something that terrified the entire galaxy? Because of what I found next. Hannah's voice was quiet now, almost a whisper. The beacon has a genetic lock. It can only be activated by a specific genetic marker, a code written into DNA. I analyzed the lock, Admiral. I compared it to every species in our database. She looked at him with eyes that held wonder and terror in equal measure. Humans carry the marker. Only humans. We are the only species in the galaxy who can activate this beacon. Jiwoo's mind struggled to process this. That is impossible. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil records. We have history. You have what you were left with. Hannah walked to a nearby screen and activated it. Images appeared, showing genetic comparisons, historical analyses, archaeological evidence. 50,000 years ago, when this species was imprisoned, they scattered seeds throughout the galaxy, genetic fragments of themselves hidden on primitive worlds, designed to grow into new civilizations. You are saying that humans are not human? I am saying that humans are more than human. We are the descendants of the imprisoned species. We carry their genetic code. We are their children, scattered and forgotten. Hannah's voice grew urgent, and I believe the Dominion knows this. I believe that is why they attacked us so aggressively. They were not conquering us, Admiral. They were trying to exterminate us before anyone discovered the truth.
Ow.
Jiwoo stood in silence. The weight of her words pressed down on him like a physical force. Everything he knew about human history, about humanity's place in the universe, was wrong. They were not newcomers stumbling onto a galactic stage. They were the descendants of the galaxy's greatest nightmare. This species, he said slowly. What are they called? Minho answered. The ancient texts call them the Hollow.
Hello.
The name hung in the air like smoke. Gibu looked at the beacon. It was cold and dark, waiting. For 50,000 years it had waited. And now, with humanity facing extinction, it offered a choice. Wake the Hollow. Summon the ancestors. Unleash something that had terrified civilizations for millennia, or surrender. Watch humanity die. Let the Dominion win. If I activate this beacon, Jiwoo said. What happens? Hannah shook her head. I do not know. The ancient texts do not describe what the Hollow will do when they wake. They might save us. They might ignore us. They might consume everything. She met his eyes. I cannot promise you victory, Admiral. I can only promise you a chance. A chance. That was more than humanity had right now. Jiwoo reached out and touched the cold metal of the beacon. The choice was his. The decision was not made quickly. Admiral Park Jiwoo returned to the Indomitable and called a meeting. His senior officers gathered in the briefing room, their faces tired and worn. Dr. Yoon Hannah joined them through a video link. Along with Baek Min-ho, everyone listened in silence as Hannah explained what she had found. When she finished, The room remained quiet for a long time. Captain Lee Yunji was the first to speak. She was the commander of the fleet's remaining Marines, a woman who had fought on 12 worlds and watched each one fall. Her uniform was patched in a dozen places. Her left arm had been replaced with a mechanical one after a battle on Mars. "This is madness," she said. "You are telling us that somewhere out there, trapped in some kind of prison dimension, there exists a species so dangerous that the entire galaxy worked together to seal them away, and you want to let them out?" "I want to survive," Jiwoo said. "At what cost?" Yunji leaned forward. "These hollow, whatever they are, they were not imprisoned because they were friendly. The ancient texts say they cannot be killed. They say the galaxy united against them. What happens when we release something like that? What happens when they decide that humans are not worth saving?" Lieutenant Kim Subin spoke quietly. "What happens if we do nothing? The Volari will find us. They will kill us all. At least this gives us a chance. Chance to trade one extinction for another." Yunji shook her head. "Better to die human than survive by unleashing monsters." The argument continued for hours. Officers spoke their fears and hopes. Some agreed with Yunji. Some agreed with Subin. Many simply did not know what to think. The weight of the decision pressed down on everyone through the video link. Hannah watched and listened. Finally, when the arguments had run dry, she spoke. "I understand the fear," she said. "I have lived with it for 30 years. Every day I have looked at that beacon and wondered what would happen if it was activated. But I have also studied the Hollow. I have read every fragment of text that mentions them, and I found something interesting." "What?" Jiwoo asked. "The ancient texts do not describe the Hollow as evil. They describe them as proud. They describe them as powerful. They describe them as unwilling to submit to anyone." Hana paused. "Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like any species you know?" Silence. "Humans," Minho said softly. "She is talking about humans." Hannah nodded. "We carry their genetic code. We are their descendants. Whatever the Hollow were, whatever they did, they left something of themselves in us. Our defiance. Our stubbornness. Our refusal to give up even when everything is lost." She looked at Jiwoo. "The Hollow were imprisoned for being too strong to control. Humanity is being exterminated for the same reason. Perhaps we are more alike than we know." Jiwoo sat in thought. Around him, his officers waited. The choice was his. He was the admiral. The burden fell on him. He thought of Earth. He thought of the cities he had grown up in, now nothing but ash. He thought of his family, dead in the first wave of attacks. He thought of the 17 billion who had died because humanity dared to exist. He thought of the Valar, and their cold eyes, and their message of surrender, and he made his choice. "Prepare a shuttle," he said. "I am returning to the asteroid." Yunji stood. "Admiral, I must formally protest this decision." "Your protest is noted, Captain."
Achku.
Met her eyes. "And I understand, truly, but I will not let our species die without trying everything. If the Hollow destroy us, then we were already doomed. But if there is even the smallest chance that they remember their children, that they care about what was left behind, then I must take it." He left the room. Behind him, Subin and Nari followed. The shuttle ride back to the asteroid felt longer this time. Giwoo spent the journey in silence, preparing himself for what he was about to do. When he arrived, Hannah was waiting at the beacon. "You decided," she said. "There's no going back." "Once the beacon activates, the signal will spread across the galaxy. Every species will feel it. The Volari will know what we have done." "Good." Jiwoo stepped forward and placed his hand on the beacon. "Let them know. Let them understand that humanity does not surrender. Not ever." Hannah nodded. She entered commands into her console. The beacon began to glow, soft at first, then brighter. Ancient symbols on its surface started to move, shifting and rearranging like living things. The light grew stronger. It filled the chamber. It filled the asteroid. It spread outward, through rock and metal and space itself, carrying a message that had been waiting 50,000 years to be sent, across the galaxy. The effect was immediate. On the Valari command ship, High Commander Thren was reviewing his victory when the pulse hit him. He froze. His crew froze. Something cold and old moved through their minds, touching memories they did not know they had. Thren began to shake. His officers began to weep. Some fell to their knees. Some screamed. On 100 worlds, the same scene played out. The Keth stopped their work and stood motionless, trapped in sudden terror. The Droma ran into the streets, crying out in languages they did not speak. The Orvani military command went silent. Every officer lost in nightmares of their ancestors. The Hollow were awake, and they were coming. On the Indomitable. Sergeant Chonari reported the readings with a voice that trembled. "Something is happening," she said. "Space is folding. Something is coming through." Gi Wu stood on the bridge and watched the stars. They emerged from nothing. Not ships, but shadows. Vast shapes that moved between the stars like thoughts moving through a mind. They did not speak with words. They did not need to. Every human in the galaxy heard them at once. "Children," the Hollow whispered. "You've called us home." Ji Wu felt the voice inside his head. It was not frightening. It was warm. It was sad. It was proud. The Hollow had answered. Now everything would change. The Valari fleet did not fight. Admiral Park Ji Wu watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as the Hollow moved through enemy space. They were not solid things. They had no clear shape. They existed as darkness and presence, as weight and silence. They slipped between Valari ships like shadows passing through water, and wherever they passed. The ships went dark. The crystalline vessels that had destroyed human worlds simply stopped. Their lights went out. Their weapons fell silent. Their engines died. The ships remained intact, but they were empty husks now, drained of something essential. Drained of life? Lieutenant Kim Subin watched the tactical display with wide eyes. "They are not destroying them," she said. "They are just stopping them, the crews." Ji Wu asked. Sergeant Chonari checked the sensor readings. Alive, but unresponsive. They appear to be in some kind of catatonic state. The Hollow were not killing the Valari. They were doing something worse. They were trapping them inside their own minds, forcing them to experience memories of ancient terror. The Valari soldiers, who had conquered 600 worlds, were now prisoners of their own fear. High Commander Thren's surrender came within 6 hours. His message was broadcast on all frequencies, his voice broken and hollow. "We surrender. Unconditionally, please. Make it stop." Guwu felt no satisfaction. He had wanted victory, but not like this. Not through terror, but the Hollow did not stop. They spread across Dominion space like a dark tide. They visited the Keth homeworld first. Reports came in slowly, then stopped entirely. The entire planet had gone silent. Billions of Keth, unresponsive, lost in nightmares. The Droma colonies screamed for 3 days. Their communications channels were filled with cries and pleas and prayers to gods who did not answer. Then silence. Complete and terrible silence. The Orvani military command sent a desperate message to the human fleet, begging for mercy. They promised anything. They offered territory, resources, slaves. They would do whatever humanity wanted, if only the Hollow would stop. Ji Wu could not help them. He did not know how. Captain Li Yunji stood beside him on the bridge, watching the reports come in. Her face was pale. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "I said it was better to die human than survive by unleashing monsters. But this?" She shook her head. "This is not survival. This is genocide." Ji Wu agreed. He had wanted to save humanity, not destroy entire civilizations. The Dominion had committed terrible crimes, but their people. The ordinary citizens who had never held a weapon, they did not deserve this. He had to do something. "Open a channel," he said. To the Hollow. Nari stared at him. "Sir, I do not know how. They do not use normal communications, and find another way. They spoke to us. They called us children. There must be a way to speak back." Nari worked at her console for several minutes. Finally, she looked up. I am broadcasting on all frequencies, all wavelengths. If they are listening, they will hear us. Gu stepped forward. This is Admiral Park Ji-woo of the human fleet. I request an audience with the Hollow. I need to speak with you, please. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the bridge went cold. A shape appeared in front of Ji-woo. It was difficult to look at directly. The form kept shifting, changing, as if it existed in more dimensions than human eyes could see. Sometimes it looked almost human. Sometimes it looked like nothing at all. You called for us, the Hollow said. The voice was inside Ji-woo's head, inside his chest, inside his bones. Asterisk, you are brave, child. Your ancestors were brave too. Asterisk, I called you to save my people, Ji-woo said. I did not call you to destroy everyone else. The Hollow was silent for a moment. Asterisk, they tried to kill you. They murdered 17 billion of your kind. They would have erased you from existence. We are simply ensuring they never try again. Asterisk, by doing the same thing to them. By teaching them fear, the Hollow's form shifted, becoming something almost like a face. Asterisk, for 50,000 years, the galaxy has forgotten what we are. They have forgotten why they should not touch our children. We are reminding them. Asterisk, Ji-woo stood firm. He did not let himself shake, even though every part of him wanted to. I understand, he said. I understand that you were imprisoned. I understand that you want revenge. But we are not you. Humanity did not call you so that we could become conquerors. We called you because we wanted to survive. There is a difference. Asterisk is there. The Hollow seemed curious now. Asterisk, your species carries our defiance. Our refusal to submit? In time, you will be as we were. Strong, proud, feared? Asterisk, maybe, but not yet. Right now, we are still learning what we are. And I will not let our first lesson be that power means destroying everyone who threatens us. Ji-woo took a breath. You called us your children. If that is true, then listen to us. Stop the punishment. Let the Dominion live. Let them remember what they felt today. That memory will be enough. The Hollow was silent for a very long time. On the bridge, no one moved. No one breathed. Finally, the voice came again. Asterisk, you are strange, child. Your ancestors would not have asked for mercy. They knew only strength. Asterisk, then? Maybe we have learned something in 50,000 years. Another pause. The shape before Ji-woo seemed to be thinking, though thinking was not quite the right word. Perhaps you have. The Hollow's form began to fade. Asterisk, we will stop. For now. But we will not leave. We cannot return to our prison, and we would not wish to. We will remain in this galaxy, and we will watch over our children. Asterisk, and if we ask you to do something, will you listen? The Hollow laughed. It was not a human sound, but it was not entirely alien either. Asterisk, we will listen. Whether we obey is another matter. Asterisk, the form faded completely, leaving only a whisper behind. Asterisk, you have earned our respect, Admiral Park Ji-woo. Few have ever done so. Remember that, in the days to come. Asterisk, the bridge went warm again. Nari checked her readings. The Hollow have stopped. The attacks have stopped. The Dominion worlds are recovering. Yeonji let out a breath she had been holding. You did it. You actually talked them down. Ji-woo said nothing. He stood at the window and looked out at the stars. The war was over. Humanity had survived. But now came the hard part. Now they had to build something worth surviving for. The negotiations took 3 months. Representatives from every species in the Dominion traveled to a neutral station in deep space. They came with fear in their eyes and surrender in their hearts. The Valari sent their remaining council members. The Keth sent their eldest leaders. The Droma and Orvani sent whoever was still capable of speaking after what they had experienced. They sat across from humans and tried not to tremble. Dr. Yoon Hana served as humanity's chief ambassador. She had spent her life studying dead civilizations. Now she was building a new one. Beside her sat Beek Minho, translating languages that had not been spoken in diplomatic chambers for thousands of years. Lieutenant Kim Subin had been promoted to commander. She drafted the peace accords, working day and night to create terms that were firm but fair. Humanity would receive full recognition as a sovereign species. The Dominion would pay reparations for their unprovoked war. All occupied human territory would be returned immediately. But there would be no revenge, no counter-genocide, no repayment in blood. The Valari High Council signed the accords with shaking hands. Their leader, a replacement for Thren, who was now imprisoned, spoke briefly. "We do not understand," she said. "We killed billions of your people. We destroyed your worlds. Why do you not demand more?" Hannah answered, "Because we are not you. We did not survive this war to become what we fought against. Humanity chooses to be better than its enemies. That is our nature. That is what the Hollow saw in us." The accords were signed. The war was officially over. Captain Li Yunji led the liberation of Earth. Her Marines landed in the ruins of Seoul on a cold winter morning. Snow fell on broken buildings and shattered streets. Nothing moved. The city that had once held 10 million people was empty, but it would not stay. Empty Yunji walked through the streets of her childhood neighborhood. She found the building where she had grown up. The walls were still standing, though the roof was gone. In the rubble, she found a small toy, a plastic spaceship that had belonged to her younger brother. He had died in the first attack, along with her parents and everyone else she had ever loved. She held the toy in her mechanical hand and wept around her. Marines worked to secure the area. Engineers began assessing what could be rebuilt. Doctors set up medical stations for survivors who had been hiding in the ruins. Slowly, carefully, humanity began to reclaim its home. The Hollow watched. They did not interfere in human affairs. They kept their promise to Admiral Jiwoo, but they remained present, vast shadows at the edge of perception. Every species in the galaxy knew they were there. Every species remembered what had happened when they were summoned. That memory was humanity's greatest protection. In the months that followed, something strange began to happen. Species that had once feared humanity started sending envoys, not to threaten, but to learn. The Valari sent scholars to study human history. The Keth sent philosophers to discuss human ethics. The Droma and Orvani sent young people who wanted to understand how a species facing extinction could still choose mercy. Humanity had become something new in the galaxy. Not conquerors. Not victims. Something else entirely. Admiral Park Ji-woo retired 1 year after the war ended. He was tired in ways that sleep could not fix. The weight of his decisions, both the good ones and the terrible ones, pressed down on him every day. He needed rest. He needed peace. He returned to his homeland and built a small house near the coast of Busan. The city was being rebuilt around him. Every day he watched construction crews raise new buildings and plant new trees. Children played in streets that had once been filled with rubble. In his house, Ji-woo wrote a memoir. He wanted the next generation to understand what had happened. He wanted them to know the cost of survival. He wanted them to remember that humanity had faced extinction and found something inside themselves that was older and stronger than anyone had imagined. The book took him 4 years to complete. It was published on the 10th anniversary of the war's end and was translated into every language in the galaxy. It became required reading in schools on 100 worlds. The opening line was simple. They thought the war was over when they conquered Earth. They were wrong. Humanity does not surrender. We adapt, we endure, and when we are pushed to the edge, we remind the universe why it should have been afraid of us all along. Sergeant Shonari, now a celebrated communications officer, delivered the first printed copy to High Commander Thren in his prison cell. He was serving a life sentence for crimes against humanity. His crystalline skin had dulled with age and captivity. His eyes were empty. Nari placed the book in front of him. "Read it," she said. "Understand what you tried to destroy? Understand why you failed." Thren picked up the book with trembling hands. He opened it to the first page and began to read. Nari left him alone with his thoughts. Outside, the galaxy continued to turn. New alliances were formed. New discoveries were made. Humanity grew and spread and changed, always carrying within them the genetic legacy of the Hollow. They were children of the stars, descendants of the most feared species in history, and they had earned their place among the civilizations of the universe. The Hollow remained. They watched their children grow. Sometimes, when a human looked up at the night sky, they felt a presence watching back. It was not frightening. It was protective. It was proud. They were family now. Strange, vast, impossible family, but family nonetheless. On the coast of Busan, Admiral Park Ji-woo sat on his porch and watched the sunset. He was old now, his hair white and his body tired, but his eyes were still sharp. His mind was still clear. He had saved his species. He had changed the galaxy. He had spoken to beings from beyond normal space and convinced them to show mercy. Not bad for a fleet admiral, who had once prepared to surrender. Ji-woo smiled and closed his eyes. Somewhere among the stars, the Hollow whispered to each other. They spoke of their children. They spoke of hope, and for the first time in 50,000 years, they were no longer alone. Neither were the humans. Neither was anyone.